everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I am super excited to have this amazing Facebook Live with the author herself, Dr. Jameel Rizwana Husaindeen, who we all with lots of love call our own dear Riz. A warm welcome. I usually address her as Rizwana ma'am, but we have a pact that this time I'm going to call her Riz with lots of love. Warm welcome, Riz.
Thanks, Sukti, the nerdy optometrist. Thank you.
Awesome. So I know you need no introduction, but just as part of the formality, I'm going to do a quick round of introduction with you. She is the head of Rivoli Vision Academy in UAE, one of the largest optical chain that is there in the country. She's a clinician, researcher, plus an educator. She is consultant for IAPB and president of AO India. She's the one who has actually designed this entire chapter. He was driving from, say, 10 academy fellows to I don't know how many that we have today, but she's doubling the number and pushing everyone to excel in our fellowship and the academic process. She's the head of BV at Sankara Netralaya, honorary consultant and faculty. She is the first clinician diplomat from India who has done is her specialization in BV. And I'm so glad to say I was part of her journey when she actually was preparing and giving the diplomat exams. So super excited to have you, ma'am. Have you, Riz, and a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Sukti. Quite humbling and gratifying to hear that introduction.
Oh, I feel this is just a snapshot. Like you have so much that you have achieved, and to add another thing to on your portfolio, now you have a book that you have written. Before we get into the details of the book, I want to do a huge shout out to my supporter and the sponsor for this episode, Eyeli. They are the one and all app that actually leverages technology to instantly enhance your skill set. It is a clinician's tool and a supporter which everybody needed to add specialty care like myopia management and vision therapy. And it is a plan to future proof your practice. So thank you so much, Eyeli, for supporting this amazing episode. And with that, Rizwana ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to stick to Riz, but it just so happens I just end up saying Rizwana ma'am.
No worries, Sukti, no worries.
So getting directly to the book, I love the title. And I really want to know, were there other alternatives? What was the story behind the title? And like, it is definitely simple. I can say that.
Thanks, Sukti. I mean, usually, as I always said, the title of the book says, keep it simple. You can just call me Riz ma'am, okay? And thanks to you for putting this together, because I know we've got lots of technical glitches, and finally we are here today. Yeah. So
Yes.
last week we tried, yeah. And first of all, thanks to your supporters and also the supporters, like the one that joined last week, and I think they're now joining on the Facebook as well.
Yes.
So coming to this book title, there is this person, common friend of both of us, Nilesh Tite. He always has he so I had already decided that the title of the book is Binocular Vision Testing Made Easy. The treatment was not part of it. Binocular Vision Testing Made Easy was the title. And then I had this tagline, keep it single and simple, because I'm always this big fan of this acronym KISS, which many of us use, right? So I wanted to use it in some format. So many of my talks in Binocular Vision, we always had this keep it single and simple, because Binocular Vision is it's all about seeing things very clear and single. So
Right.
you just help people fuse, double images into one single image. And if you're able to see things clearly, then you've done the job of the Binocular Vision practitioner perfect. So I would always use this in my talk. So that was the tagline. And as I was conversing one night in Kolkata, I remember with Nilesh, he said, I think this should become the title and not the tagline. So he said, move this, keep it single and simple to the title and put that. and move the title to the tag. So I did move it, and then Dr. Mitchell chime in. I mean, I'm so blessed if there is, this. Of course, I can't count the blessings that I have in my life, but Dr. Mitch is one person in my entire professional career. And Upti, you know the journey. I mean, of course, like my first meeting with him, you were there on the corridor and you saw me like starstruck or dumbstruck, I don't know. From that moment onwards, my life changed. So he said, after we finished the book, he said, this book talks a lot about treatment also. So let's add the word treatment. And that's how the title came out. But I'm sure that the contents of the book does justification to the title. That's all we wish for.
Absolutely. We're going to get into the book and the title and the details. But I was blessed, amazed to see and to actually witness your first interaction with Dr. Michelle. And it was so funny because I had met you for the first time, or I think it was the second meeting that we were together. I was still in awe with your, expertise and the kind of work you do, while I was being, distracted on like attending some part of academy and going around chit chatting while you were the dedicated student and the real nerd out of the nerdy optometrist, I would say, who would sit and meet people, attend the conferences. And then I suddenly saw you just going crazy seeing Dr. Shaiman, and you were like, oh God, Ukti, can you take a picture? And you forgot that I even exist. I was like, okay. So I cannot forget that moment, but I could see the kind of dedication and the passion you had in a person who shared similar, passion for binocular vision. And I'm glad you all together bought this book and wrote it. I think it is a fantastic book that is there. Now, why did you write this book? I want to know the why behind it.
Okay. I mean, I think our life is full of beautiful stories. I mean, the narratives that we create out of the experience, I think, plays very crucial in building our lives and our career. So in my first year, I just told this recently in a conference as well. There's this ragging in the optometry school, right? So I was just walking across the corridor, and my third year senior that time, who's now a postdoctoral researcher in University of New South Wales, Revati. So she was, she just caught hold of me in the corridor, like this meeky first year, trying to hide from the seniors. She handed over the clinical management of binocular vision book by Shaiman. And she said, I want you to take some notes from this book, just write, these pages, and then give it to me. I have to prepare for my exam. That's the first instance where I was introduced to binocular vision, and I never understood the depth of karma until I realized, oh, this binocular vision will become a part and parcel of my life. But even at that time, as a first year, I really didn't understand the ABCD of what I wrote, but I wrote it. But then I realized there is something which is, which is so profound in this book that can change the career or career of an optometrist. So by third year and final year, this book had become almost like very close to me, and I was reading the book and started practicing binocular vision, and met Dr. Mitchell Chaiman, PhD in binocular vision. But all this while I was interacting with practitioners, there was something that was always coming up, which is in terms of managing cases that they would see in the clinic. Some of the commonly, like, when it comes to binocular vision, there are like a few templates that you can always use to decipher, oh, where is the symptom coming from, and what are the potential tests that I can do, and how can I manage this case. So that sort of a framework was necessary for early career practitioners, like someone who may not have had access to a very in-depth teaching of binocular vision, or even very in-depth practice of binocular vision for that matter. Like even now, I would say I have understood, like, say 10% of what this binocular vision specialty is all about. So it's a lot of hands-on and practice, and seeing hundreds and hundreds of patients is really required to come to that level of Dr. Mitch. So I said, okay, he had seen, like, hundreds and thousands, and I have seen a few hundreds. So why don't we put this clinical experience together and directly get on to the subject. I mean, no theory, okay? Because Dr. Schmidt had already done the job and no one can beat the job ever for that matter, how many ever decades to come, because he released the 4th edition. And then so we said, okay, let's just only stick on to the most commonly seen cases in the clinic. And then we'll put that as a book, which will be a teaching material, because, you know, if the students just get to understand how to manage these most commonly encountered clinical scenarios, then they'll go to the clinic with confidence, because otherwise people will always say, no, binocular vision, I'm so scary, I can't really understand this subject. So first thing is we wanted to get that myth out of the student's head, and also for practitioners to sort of serve as a ready reckoner where they can just get into the book and then, okay, this is how my case looks like, and maybe this is the you know, the flow that I can utilize, the framework that I can utilize. So this is how we thought a book based on clinical scenarios is important, and then we put all our experience, the cases that we saw in our clinics, and then we put that into a book.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to say, I was, and I think I still am one of the students who would run away from binocular vision. As much as I found it interesting, but it was very hard for me to implement it in day-to-day practice. So I definitely feel that I was experiencing that piece, and I wish this book had come maybe 10 years ago. Having said that, you know, I can still start reading. I've started reading it today, so you know it's better now than never. So I really appreciate you bringing out the solution for the pain which we all went through.
Thanks, okay.
And just a quick reminder to all the audience, please feel free to drop in any questions, comments, anything in the chat. And we will love to, you know, take up your questions and ask the same to Rizwana ma'am. I have lots of questions for her, so I'm going to keep talking. But if you have something, just drop in the chat and we'll take your questions as well. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I really appreciate you guys being here. So I know I really loved one thing that you have added in the book, which is the quote from Albert Einstein, which you said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And I think it is so beautiful, so powerful, and so accurate. I have to, you know, a huge kudos for adding that quote into it. And I think it is really done justice to your through your book. That's a fantastic quote that's out there. Any story there, or you just loved it and you just had it posted there?
No, again, mentors play a very, very important role, right? So Dr. Mitch, where as part of the diplomate journey, whenever I would write anything, case report, or even he would send a lot of tests to complete, because diplomate is like a clinical PhD, right? So
Right.
if he did not understand anything that I had written, he would be so blunt, and he will tell me, you didn't understand, that's why you are not able to simplify this, or sort of like, you know, able to explain it. And even I think all of us are familiar with this common thing that people would say, if you are able to explain whatever that you understood to a 5-year-old kid or a 6-year-old kid, then you know it you also learn it better.
Yes.
So if you are able to, so now, as you rightly said, somebody who's got 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, like Dr. Mitch, 50 years experience, there is, if we are able to reach out to that person that is just starting up their practice, like that 1 year, 2 year old, 2 year sort of experience, early career practitioners, then we thought, okay, we've done justice. And that's when Albert Einstein helped us with that quote. And I was just thinking about it, just popped up. And I'm also there's another favorite quote. Of course, it's too long, so I didn't include it, which is by a sports writer called Andy Benoit. I've written it here. Most geniuses, especially those who lead others, prosper not by deconstructing intricate complexities, but by exploiting unrecognized simplicities. So everything that we see in the clinical world, or even in the real world for that matter, there is always an unrecognized simplicity, but we humans insist on making things complex, or you know, be it relationships or be it life, be it subject, anything, we insist on making things complex, but there are lots of ways that we can always simplify. I'm still not sure whether we've been able to simplify it as much as simplify it, like, to our level best. But of course, Dr. Mitch did the job. But there's a huge team behind me. If you see, the title just carries both of our names, but inside the list of authors, right? The contributor list. The Binocular Vision team at Shankar Netralaya, Mr. Praveen, Mr. Amit, Ms. Aisha, Ms. Monisha, and then Shreya. So there are these Shruti Meenakshi. So there are these people that stood behind me for almost like 2 years. And every time I would break my head, oh my God, like, oh, this case is like, how do we do it? What do we do it? Praveen especially brought in so much life to this book by adding a lot of graphical interface images, the GIF figures. So anybody who buys the book will get that interactive e-version where, you click it and then it plays, the video plays basically. So, so that we thought somebody who's not able to see patients, real life. Now that COVID, everybody has very reduced hands-on experience. Getting to see an exo or a ESO or an intermittent divergent squint. So how it would look like, we simulated everything. I mean, Praveen simulated everything. And I think that did a lot of justice to this book. So it's not just me, Ukti. I mean, as you know, there's this big team that's put their heart and soul into it to stand up to the Albert Einstein's quote of simplifying things.
But I think it is such a fantastic quote. And I have to say, sometimes we forget about the simplicity, as you rightly mentioned. Sometimes you just go like, this is what it is. You don't know the reason. You don't know why it exists. Like, I might just say, oh, because Riz told me that this is how it is supposed to be with this stuff. And I don't even question. I don't even question. And actually it highlights when, say, if I have to explain to someone who has no idea of what I'm talking about, right? And in my head, it is absolutely clear, but the other person has no clue what I'm talking about. And that's where you realize, why are we making things so complex? And you also realize you don't understand what you're talking, but you have a way around, oh, you won't understand, it is too complicated.
That's what we say when we haven't understood it, basically.
Exactly. That's what we say when we don't understand. Absolutely. So we already got one comment about your next book should be Binocular Vision Risk Defined. And I think that's a fantastic title for you. Maybe it could be your autobiography or another binocular vision book.
Thanks, Kim. Kim is, I can speak about Kim in it, another live session. Thanks, Kim. That's a beautiful comment, basically.
Yes, absolutely. So now going a little bit into the book, that it starts with some fantastic concepts. And to begin with, the first concept that you have highlighted, I'm not even going into the book. I'm just like, browsing on the first couple of pages and I'm in awe with it. It talks about the cognitive domain of Bloom's taxonomy. And I want to know a little more, because when I saw it for the first time, I actually had to spend 15-20 minutes just to know how did you find it. And it makes so much sense. Just that one image has I think could be a book by itself. So it's fantastic. Can you tell me a little more about it?
Oh, thanks. I mean, so the Bloom's taxonomy, of course, is every educator that's really learned the pedagogy of the whole education system cannot sort of like, wouldn't have been able to succeed without understanding Bloom's taxonomy. So thankfully, as part of my clinical teaching and pedagogy and all those, like, becoming a teacher training. So the training that I took to become a teacher had this Bloom's taxonomy as part of the curriculum. And that's when I was, by the time I had already started to teach, that's a different story. So then I realized, oh my God, I mean, I've been teaching without really understanding how to teach. So the reason why I introduced Bloom's taxonomy into this book, especially, is for educators to know that there are different levels in somebody's learning ability, or rather cognitive ability, and we need to keep it appropriate to the level of students that we deal with. Like when you are dealing with a second-year-old optometry student, a third-year-old, a final year intern, or a master's student, you will have to base your evaluation depending upon the cognitive ability that you are looking out from this particular candidate. So what is basically Bloom's taxonomy? As you see here, it's got 6 levels, which starts from knowledge and then moves on to understanding or comprehension, then being able to apply it, then analyzing it, and then coming out with the patterns, synthesizing that information, deciding the management plan for the patient, and finally, evaluating. So this is like how, when we entered into first year, you can really sort of put this, just overlap this to the learning process in any of the course or curriculum, any of the learning progress that we make with a particular subject. So the moment we start, everything is only theoretical, you just
Right.
know it. But as you dive in deeper and deeper and deeper and get on to the part of practicing it, where hands-on skills are really, really important, so you do it, and then you start to then analyze it, evaluate it, synthesize it. That's when your cognitive levels start of keep evolving, and then you become like a great clinician, and then you are able to now know, okay, what is like the bare minimum, the basic knowledge that needs to be taught, and what is this high end cognitive ability that I'm looking at. So to all the educators out there, whenever you are sort of wanting to convey information about a particular topic or whatever, think on these 6 levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and then think about your audience as well, and see at what level you need to be, at what level you will really make sense to this particular audience. And
Right.
definitely, I mean, at every level you can always it doesn't mean that for a first year student you will never ask a question that is to do with hands-on or analysis, but it's only to keep it appropriate to that particular level. Or you will have to deconstruct your questions, in the sense
Right.
like, when you set up your question paper, you should know, okay, I have questions that are just simply knowledge based testing, but there are questions that are application based testing, which needs a higher level of cognitive ability. You can't like sort of keep on asking only knowledge questions to an intern or to a master student. And that's what is happening in the current education, pitifully, in the current education system. Teachers who are not aware of these cognitive ability level based assessments, they just don't really enter into the analytical domain. And we still, because knowing is only knowing, but only
Right.
when you do, you go to that next level. So if you really want to bring out sort of like the best, or you want to produce good great clinicians, then you will have to make sure that you move from level 1 to level 6. You have to teach, and then you have to evaluate them on these levels. So that's when Bloom's taxonomy, I think, will really, really be super helpful.
No, I think it's fantastic how you mentioned that this is not only for your teaching or education purposes. You can also use it in your day-to-day practice when it comes to patients as well, from say evaluating to explaining. And I think, yes, we definitely take few things for granted. We don't question, and that's why this actually helps us to think and ask that, why we are doing, how can I do this better. The entire question will come only if you have an awareness. So thank you for putting it out there for all of us.
Totally, totally. Well said, well said, Ukti. I mean, it all starts with awareness. And if
Yes,
you know, then at least you will make the effort. Sort of like, yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I actually love the way it also helps you prepare on how you should read this book. So you have written this in your book, and I'm going to go. I'm still sorry, everybody. I know you might have questions about the book, but I'm still in like the first few pages of the book, which I'm in awe with. So you need to get a cup of coffee, set a timer before you start every chapter, put your mobile phone away or in a silent mode, and finish one chapter at each sitting. I think this is so we all know about this. Okay, when you start, you read, okay, you have to do this. But this 2 sentences is so powerful because it reminds you what you need to do. I just created a post where I have these sticky notes, the post-it notes, which I keep in front of me, which just reminds me talk slowly, you got this. Like just these all positive, affirmations to myself, which are visually out there. So at times, whenever I get distracted, it's like a self-coaching for me. And that is what is there in the book, which I loved. Any reason for adding it? Have you seen people getting distracted and you're like, as a teacher, I need to remind you, keep your book away.
Oh no, as an attention deficit personality myself, so I am attention deficit, and I am hyperactive in the sense, like distracted to really focus on one particular thing, and I'm all over the place. Okay, all over the place. And so to write this book, okay, was like, I would always, like, last 5 years we've been telling, okay, we will do this. This book was supposed to be released in 2020 August. And but what really kept me away from writing that book was this this bad habit of not prioritizing things, because everything would come in and then this book will take the back seat. So distracted in the sense, it's not like distracted with entertainment or something, but we sort of jump into something that will look easy at that moment, because
Yes.
this book would always fear me. Oh no, I'm not going to sit and write this. And then as I started, this was like a note to my own self. I said, no, you're going to write one chapter every day. You're going to set a timer, sit, and then put down these cases and write. So I set this as a reminder for myself, and I felt when someone takes this book up to read, then they will also have the same sort of distractions and all the other environmental complexities associated with taking away your focus, because
Right.
our environment is not cued to giving you focus. It's
Right.
so cued to taking away your focus. So I said, okay, why not I put this as a reminder? And even Dr. Mitch appreciated the fact that, yes, because a chapter is basically a theme. And then, so for you to really just sort of pull the theme out together and understand, it makes all the more important to read it at one shot, not like just read one case, go back, then come and read the second case, because it's all like related to each other. Sometimes it could be the same patient, multiple visits. And
Right.
so it's really important that you read it at one shot. So we wanted to tell that message, but not in a very bossy manner, saying, no, you have to read one chapter.
You don't want to sound like a teacher, right? You want to sound like a person who's trying to be like, okay, I'm helping you to read better and perform better.
Yeah, or rather as a friend. And so I said, okay, so just make a cup of coffee for yourself, treat yourself, then come
Yeah.
and sit as if you're doing a Sudoku or whatever that is. But then, this is not a book. It's basically something that you already know, you've seen, or you will
Yeah.
get to see, and you're just going to sort of use your mind around and come out with answers, basically. So I thought, okay, why not? Why don't we put this reminder if it could help the reader? Yeah.
Yes, no, absolutely. I think it is great, and and you rightly said, the distraction, and I struggle with it myself. I'm going to say I'm guilty of it. That only when you're trying to do something which is going to take a long time, say whether it's writing an article or whatever it would be, that is the time you'll think of, oh, should I send this message to someone? Should I send out an email? Like that email was supposed to be done probably 2 days ago, or it is not at all important. It can wait. But just when you're trying to write something or put something together, you want to go and write that email, which is probably a 5 minutes job, but it's just a distraction. It still could be work, but it is a big distraction. So I think it's a fantastic reminder. So we have another comment by Tausif Khan. They say it's always great to listen when I listen, Dr. Jameel Rizwana. Absolutely, it's a pleasure not just to listen her stories, but to know her personally. She's a fantastic human being, and I'm a huge fan of her.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing in a message that it was nice to see me. I can't see you, but I appreciate you joining this live session. And they're also waiting for the book, so the book should arrive soon, I say.
Yeah.
Awesome. So going back to the book, okay, which part of writing the book has been your most favorite? Which chapter, which portion? What was the most favorite part about this book?
So there's nothing like favorite, I would say. Of course, the way the book has come out at the end itself is something that that we would cherish as a team, because when we really started the book, we thought we would put in real patient videos, like we got permission from actual patients, and then later we all of a sudden realized the legalities associated with it. Like, yes, the parents are giving consent, but later what if something pops up? And
Yeah.
then we went ahead with creating these animations, and we were like behind people asking for help, and then nothing really was concrete, like nothing was helpful, productive. And then Praveen, being that creative expert, said, okay, why don't I just give out a try, and then give it a try, and then he gave it a try. And then the moment we saw these gifs just fitting in here and there, and wherever we wanted, so it became much better than even putting in real sort of assessment or a patient clinical picture or a
Pictures.
video. Yeah. So that animations we thought would really help anybody, be it a clinician or a student, to visualize the case. So that is actually the best part of the book, the case based way, as well as these animations that complemented animations, and even figures for that matter, that we created for this book, that complemented the understanding of the different chapters. That's the first part of, I think, that's the most favorite part of the entire book, I would say. The second is the evidence based approach that we brought into this book, because many a times people would ask, okay, you're managing this particular patient this way, but where is the evidence? And again, based on whatever that was evidence, the best evidence at that point of time when we wrote the book, which was the end of 2020, mid of 2021. So we compiled a lot of literature. We read those literature, and then we said, okay, based on these available literature is how this management is sort of was planned. Because I think this also reduces the workload for a clinician when they are trying to manage a particular case. Okay, am I just managing it based on expertise or evidence?
Yeah.
And then they know, okay, this book has the evidence, and then all the evidences are provided as references also for each particular chapter. So I think bringing these two pieces, which are not currently present in any of, in the similar context, I think added a lot of uniqueness to this particular book.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And which another thing which you mentioned, right, about the GIF and the animations. What I loved about it is usually when you see textbooks or when you see any binocular book, right, you might refer it as a textbook. It's very clinical. It feels you like you're studying, right? And the actual patient images, you've seen that throughout your optometry schooling. So the minute you see real patient images, you feel, okay, I'm studying, it gives that feeling. Now that when I look GIFs or animation, it makes me feel more like a comic feel, which is more fun and relaxed. It is more in my comfort zone. So just looking at the visuals, I was expecting real patient images, but when I saw that, I'm like, this is, a cool version of teaching the exact same thing. So it's just the visual, because that's how you grew up, right? That's what the image is in your mind.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah,
think that
teaching
was
the
a
Gen Z, yeah,
fantastic
teaching the
combination.
Gen Z taught us so much that you have to be sort of very, very creative. Otherwise, you're not going to reach out to them for that matter. So we wanted to keep it sort of fast, sort of very cool. And those images, of course, were Praveen's. We would name it like, we would call it Praveen and his wife Priya. And so we were like, naming all these chips also.
So a huge shout out to Praveen for doing this. I think all your hard work is really appreciated, and we would love to have more books and more gifs. Maybe replace all the books with some fun images for people to keep it interested. So fantastic job, and thank you for doing that for this book and for all of us. Really appreciate it. So we have another comment from Ramya Adhyal, who says, thank you, Riz ma'am, for introducing binocular vision to me. Desperately waiting to read this book. And I'm sure, I just have to say, you will love this book, and all the wait is going to be fruitful. So just hang in
Way,
there.
Ramya ordered 5 books yesterday, and so we just couriering it to her. Thank you, Ramya, for the support. Thank you.
Absolutely. So another quick reminder, if you have any comments, any message, any questions, do drop it in the chat. We'll try and take as many as we can. I'll also be adding the link for the books, so where you can buy in case you haven't booked your copy yet. And I'll also be sharing information about our sponsors. So just, find all the links along with this amazing conversation that we are having. Now, we did talk about the fun part. I'm sure it wasn't just all fun and amazing. We would definitely have some difficult part in the process. So I want to know, what was the most difficult piece in writing this book?
Yeah, the first thing is when I had just planned the book, I didn't plan along with Dr. Mitch. I mean, like, who has the courage to approach a person to who wrote the textbook, and you're going to sound so childish, and so I had just wanted to write a book. That's it. I want to write a book on binocular vision, case based, and I was constantly motivated by my mentors along those lines, like, yes, you should do it now that there's lots of cases that you compile. But I would never sit and write the book. I will always say I'll write the book. That was the most tough part of the getting started, to because I was just aiming for that perfect moment, that perfect sort of the perfection in whatever that I bring out, and all. I was seeking a lot of excellence, I mean a lot of perfection. But then I understood, like, excellence is just it's just an evolution. Like, as you keep doing things again and again and again, you may not be really perfect, but you just sort of keep excelling as you keep doing it. So you have to start somewhere. So
Right.
starting was the starting trouble, as many of us would say, was the most complex aspect, the most toughest thing for me as an author. So one day, as I was just traveling out to Delhi, I decided I'm going to just start writing the book. It's going to be a 3.5 hours flight, so I'm going to just take my laptop and type in whatever that comes to my mind, whatever that just comes, And then by the time the flight landed, I had almost like finished the first chapter, and that's when I realized, I think nothing is going to come if I keep waiting for that right moment, that perfect moment. I think it's only about starting. It's just starting wherever you are, whatever facilities, infrastructure that you have, and don't wait for that quietest resort and then the room, and then you lock everything up and somebody gives you all that you need. No, that's not going to happen. So it's always easier when you start and when you're in the middle of it. So I
Right.
just had started it, and then I would block timings every week, making sure that some part of the book is written, because um, because I had signed the contract with the publisher. So we first signed a contract with an Indian publisher because we wanted to keep the cost of the book very low. I mean, to all those
Right.
out there, intentionally we wanted to genuinely wanted to keep the cost of the book very low. But apparently when COVID hit, the publisher faced a lot of issue and they backed out. And that is when Nova Publishers, based in the United States, came in and then took the book and then took it to a different level. But that's what raised the cost of the book also. So my apologies to many people back there in India who felt that the book cost sort of like, oh my God, why is this $150, $130 and things like that. So it's all this COVID related issues and getting a publisher to sort of do all the work, especially for a book like this, where you have to have a physical version, and then you also a paper version, and also you have to have an e-version. And that wasn't very easy because the Indian publisher backed off. We had to get another publisher to get the book moving. And so these were some of the complexities, tough moments that were associated with publishing the book. But having said that, there are no regrets at the moment, I would say, because what I did is just because as a first author, like it's almost like your first child, right? Like you've written this book. So I have stocked this book because I didn't want to give the burden to the reader, because for every book, Mukti, based in the US, for every book there's a huge shipping cost. So when people buy books individually, they're going to face this shipping cost. So I thought, okay, buying it in bulk will cut down the shipping cost for the reader. So I bought the book in bulk, and then I didn't keep anything, not even a single penny on top of the book, because see, ultimately the whole purpose of the book is to reach out to as many people as possible, and making education affordable, and also like this sort of a knowledge should be accessible to everybody. There is no point. So whatever the cost that we've kept at the moment, which is at 7,500 Indian rupees, is just whatever, like, the cost at which this book is being bought from the publisher in bulk. So the link will be posted on the FB chat. So if any of you want to buy the physical copy, the paper version, then reach out to me, email it to me, email your request, and we will courier the book to you. But when you buy the paper copy, you also get a e-version free of cost. Like, the publisher will give you a e-version. But if you do not want the physical copy or place somewhere, then you can also buy only the e-version, which is made available only now. So I requested the publisher saying cut down the cost to 50 percentage and give people the e-version alone. And so those of you who just need only the e-version can go on to that site link and buy the e-version. But one huge request to all of you out there, it is so easy to what do you call, like, sort of the e-version. There's always a risk with e-version, right? The
Right.
book will be just shared, like one person buys it and shares with everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So we put in a lot of security. I think that at some point is totally up to the buyer, who
Right.
consciously ensures that they don't share it with everybody. But I'm sure that, the close circle that we've got is quite conscious about it. So these were some of the difficult moments in being author. But again, as I said, when you really see the product, I mean, at the end, when I just got the book in hand, I really didn't have any regrets. I mean, I'm like so happy to hold this book, like as I had my first son. So I think it's as as precious as that, I would say. Yeah.
I mean, I feel this is incredible, and I have to highlight a couple of things just to sum up your struggles. One, of course, there is no right time to start anything. I can tell this from my personal experience. You just go out there, put yourself in the universe, I would say, and let the magic happen. So just start, do whatever, even if the first version, I'm sure your first version would not have been perfect, or you might have gone back and revised it, but at least you have something to revise versus something in your head which is beautiful and amazing and perfect. But when you see it on the paper, I'm like, oh my god, I need revisions. Or from changing real patients images to the gifs, and the struggles there to find an animator, to having a publisher. And I think that the publisher piece is also very interesting. I would say just commit yourself to something with someone, then something will hold you liable, and then you might end up doing it. If you are
Exactly.
slacking on it, I think that's a great way as well. There are times when I just book a meeting, or I'll just put that, okay, I'm doing an Insta live, or I'm recording a podcast, so I'm forced to do it, right? The days when I'm not feeling good, if I've committed, there is no backing out, and then the result is amazing. You will work towards it. And yes, I would first of all thank you for being so conscious about everybody's pocket, because making it affordable would be a huge effort for you as well, and making sure there are resources for us to buy the book, either e-version or paperback, just to be something which is knowledge for all. And I cannot thank you enough for doing all these efforts that you've gone through.
Thanks. Thanks. Thank you.
And yes, we'll be dropping the link for the book in the chat. I'll be also dropping it later in the descriptions on my other platforms. But please be conscious of not sharing, and just respect the effort that someone has done to make your life simple in the world of binocular vision. That's how I'm going to have this message. Wonderful. So I would like to ask, what next is there for you in this? Is there another book? Is there something else that's coming up? Like, what's next for you?
Okay, so I usually, like, all of us do this, right? The moment we do something, then immediately what next, what next, and then that kept me pushing through. But now I think I'm in that phase of life where I'm enjoying a bit of stillness, I would say. Like there is, I've sort of put a pause to things for a while. A lot of things that I've been doing. Of course, there's a tremendous change in the career, in like the country, the home front, and everything. Like there's
Yeah.
so I'm taking this time to understand some of the high priorities in life, like what should I be focusing on in terms of like moving forward. So if I would do something in the next 5 years, then I think I will focus more towards, of course, I will write books, because now that I've written a book and Upti is behind me to write a non-fiction book more on the soul's, let the soul speaks journey. So I'm sort of journaling and doing a lot of those sort of philosophical penning down, where how you overcome your struggles and sort of like overcome this voice in your head that tells you all reasons as why you should not do a certain thing and why
Right.
you are not worthy and all that stuff, and how to get rid of that voice. So all those things, all those sort of I think working on your own inner self and healing. I mean, if that's the word that I would want to use, then healing all the trauma that I've sort of like, oh my God, I've got a lot of baggage to clear up with this. So I'm sort of clearing up those things. And but as I'm doing, I'm also getting a lot of clarity. So now I'm into corporate optometry, which is
Right.
so cool and so exciting. Retail optometry and corporate optometry. I think the universe always does things on purpose. And sometimes you do not know why you've been sort of like guided towards that particular journey.
Right.
So the next couple of years, I think I'll focus more towards helping a lot of early career professionals, optometry students back home, as well as in the mid career, to understand the opportunities in optometry, especially on the retail front, the corporate front. And I think I'll focus more on that part of I think the that specialty. I think, of course, binocular vision is there. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere, and I'm integrating binocular vision into primary eye care at all levels, even in corporate optometry for that matter. But moving forward, I think in the next couple of years, I'm going to focus more on a little bit the other phase of optometry, I think. And also, I'm going to take time to sort of reflect on the journey, as well as look at what's ahead and what I can do better.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think we're really looking forward. I know this personally because we did chat offline as well, at how much is this crazy change for you from being a researcher, scientist, and academician to going into a corporate world and trying to bring both of these worlds together. And I think you are nailing it there as well. So kudos to you for this huge leap of faith, I would say, in your career. But you are known to do things which people find impossible or scared of.
Crazy
This was
things, yeah.
great. Yes, I would say I would keep it nerdy. I wouldn't say crazy. That's an
Okay.
underlining. So, so I think I really, really appreciate, all that you do. You have been a huge inspiration to everyone, every student out there. And thankfully, you were my mentor during my master's, and I haven't like left that connection since then. I was scared of you, by the way, just if you didn't know. I didn't know you, so I was like, oh my god, she has achieved so much, I'm scared of this person. But when I met you, you were so humble and down to earth. So I can talk about you, I think, for days, but we'll keep it to the book. A few comments that came in was, this book is helpful for undergrad students, from Jatin Kashyap, which I feel is fantastic. And that was the purpose of the book. So thank you for sharing that. There is another message which came from Tausif Khan. In Eastern India, approximately every college and university students uses Purana orthoptic book. So I think if the cost will be normal in future, then definitely students will love the book. Yeah, that's the whole mission. But I'm sure, like, the book completely surpasses the pricing. So if you're looking for something which is simple and it helps you keep everything single, this is the book you need to go to.
And having said that, Tausif, thanks for bringing that out. Recently, we had a conversation, I mean, as part of the Learn Beyond Visions there's a course that I've launched along with Learn Beyond Vision on binocular vision, right? So Dr. Khurana was part of the valedictory event. So if there's an opportunity, let us see how we can work along with Dr. Khurana and then bring out something for the Indian audience now that you brought this out. So yeah.
Wonderful. So before we end this conversation, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for writing this book, and again, bringing us and introducing us to this beautiful world of binocular vision, which many of us were scared, but I'm sure we'll overcome it after reading this book. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or to Riz directly. We'll be dropping all the links in the chat. This conversation will be available on all platforms of Nerdy Optometrist, even after the end of this live session. So do check it out if you have missed today. Any closing words before we end this chat?
First of all, thanks to you, Upi, because you've been you just tossed this idea out when the book was releasing. Why don't we do this book review? And so thanks to you, first of all, and I'm sure that this review would be helpful to many people in understanding what this book is all about, and the beautiful journey, the story, the struggles, and everything behind this book. So thanks to you, first of all, and thanks to, of course, your sponsors, because events like this are never sort of like, it's never sort of like, you're able to do it so well with all the support. And FB means not Facebook.
Yes, so we have to do a huge shout out to our technical support, the Baroda Wala brothers, Fakhruddin, as well as Zulfikar, who has been just there to support us while we technically challenged people who were struggling.
Yeah, and both the Barodawala brothers have been a huge support in my career as well. Over the last couple of years, they've supported enormously with all my webinars, this book, and so again, thanks to you guys and my entire team back home, the Binocular Vision team, I would say, because writing a book like this. So guys, if any of you want to write a book or do any task that looks so daunting to you, then build your accountability team. Yeah, at least have a couple of people, as Ukti said, commit to sort of seeking excellence. And there is never in our lives we would achieve perfection. Don't worry. I mean, it's always, when even if you are so proud of something, at the end you will also feel, I should have done this better. There's always a scope for improvement. So do not aim towards perfection, but aim towards excellence, which is always like a lifelong journey, I would say. So anything that you would want to aspire, anything that you aspire for or you want to accomplish in your life, just keep moving forward. So the team back home, Binocular Vision team, that sort of proofread the book, wrote the everything, the appendix, all, Aisha, Amit, I mean, they sort of like backed up. And thanks to COVID, because when everybody was cursing COVID, we used that lockdown time to finish the book. So because we were just, we couldn't escape anywhere. So we had to, there was no excuse saying, oh no, there were too many patients to see, the clinic is busy, this and that. So we used the COVID lockdown to our advantage, and we sort of wrapped this book up. So thanks to that time that we got as well. And of course, to all my mentors, I would say, like even like Dr. KK, who continues to support the book in possible ways, Dr. Meenakshi, the reviewers of the book, Dr. Sahitya Bhaskaran at Aravind Eye Hospital, and Dr. Revati. So these two reviewed the book, and because we needed to have reviewers who sort of says, okay, like, the contents are sort of very clinically relevant and valid before even you send the book out to the publisher. So it's not just one person. I mean, the person that you're seeing here is just the face, or rather, just one tiny part of the book. But this book is made possible by this team, and most importantly, our patients, because I think all these patients that we got to see, and the patterns that we were able to sort of derive in our own heads, and the framework that we were able to build in our clinical practices by seeing these countless number of patients, So our thanks goes out to all these patients. So every patient that you get to see, guys, every patient, however you want to call them, as patient, consumer, customer, client, everybody that you get an opportunity to serve has a potential to sort of teach something to you. All you need to do is to keep your eyes and mind open to learn. And even if it's the end of the day, even if you're shutting out your clinic, even if you feel sort of drained out, just be open and say, oh, what is there in this for me to learn? And if you keep that learner's mindset, then I think the days ahead will be so exciting, and all of us can create beautiful things.
Absolutely. I think I really loved the takeaway message that you gave. One is to, have a team, your support system, who you can always fall back on, and have this learner's mindset, which sometimes we forget or get distracted. So I think amazing takeaway messages, and just keep going, no excuses. Have people who will check on you, like, have you done this? You want someone who's going to daunt you with that question to keep you going. With that, thank you so much.
I have to tell you this, when you write certain things like this, like Nilesh, I said, every conversation that you make with your close, that connects, there are some people with whom you can just be yourself, like Ukti or Nilesh, without inhibition. And so you will get these ideas that sort of turns the table around. So now, see, Keep It Single and Simple became the title of the book, and Nilesh for sure is sure to sue me, because he will now tell me that I haven't acknowledged him in the book.
But you can say you acknowledged him in this conversation, so you have somewhere where it's an acknowledgement.
Yeah, and my father, as you see the Hussaindeen behind my name, so my father will always beat a research paper or book. He feels as if he's written the book himself. So, so I think this is one way to sort of give back to our parents. If there's no other way that we can sort of, like, how we can repay all the debts, the gratitude that we can show to them is through these simple ways. And that's why I ensure that people sometimes tell me, very long name, can we cut down this bit? No, please put it wherever possible. So I think so these are some of the beautiful moments in life always.
Absolutely. We love calling you Riz, but of course the identity is their full name, and that definitely is a very great way of representing our parents, and whatever we can give back in a very small way. Nothing can repay it. But thank you once again for writing this book, for chatting with me. This was my first Facebook Live. This was my first book review. So it has been a fantastic journey and process for me as well. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but you made it simple for me. Thank you so much, Riza. I really appreciate it.
Thanks to you, Ukti. We had the learner's mindset when the Insta sort of gave up because of the UAE guidelines. We said, okay, let's do something. And the Baradawala brothers, FB, helped us to now just, come on to another platform. So if something doesn't work, which means maybe, like, there's something else that's going to give you the best. So keep just sort of looking out for the next. Yeah, there's always a lesson in everything, every experience.
Absolutely. It has been an amazing learning journey from Instagram to Facebook, but just making sure we go live and do this session. So I think we've achieved our goal, and it has been a pleasure talking to you as always.
Thanks, Ukti. Thank you. And thanks to all the audience out there. And keep supporting us. Keep supporting Ukti, me, and all the Baradawala brothers, and keep supporting the entire optometry community, guys. Thanks to all of you, and love you all so much.
Thank you so much. Yes, and do follow Nerdy Optometrist for all the content and all the links that we've been just discussing. So just support us.